Ryan?
Um, I would say that with the exception of like time film competitions, I didn't really ever participate in festivals. So it may be an unusual thing about me as a filmmaker. I think that the thing that really propelled me from one opportunity to the next was working with people who were passionate about actually creating their art. And so it wasn't the people who were the big names or excited, like exciting opportunities in terms of like, oh, I'm working on this level now. It was just like people who were trying to do something kind of just really from the ground up, and really were pouring every part of themselves into it. And I think it was true for Incognita. I think it was true for the bands that I was doing music videos for. And I was, when I was kind of like a one-man band, kind of, doing everything from shooting to the visual effects. They were like doing hands-on, like Sarah and Christopher and both of their families, just like coming in and sewing costumes and building sets and things like that. Same thing with the artists that I was working with. The I could do visual effects and I could edit things, and to look, to add some production value. I could shoot things in a way that added production value. But ultimately, the fact that they were coming in and being passionate about it and pouring all of this effort and ingenuity into what they created elevated everything that I did so much more than I could have ever done it. And I think it's because our our art form is necessarily collaborative all the time, that you can't be an editor just a solo editor that never works with anybody else. Like, you have to get the footage from somewhere, and somebody has to be responsible for what goes in front of the camera. And sometimes I like to be involved in that process. I definitely produce my own work, but it's ultimately the other artists that pour their passion into it that I think elevate the work beyond what I could do on my own, and beyond what some like big name like studio or something does. I think that genuine passion comes across in the work.
Wow, such a great answer. Because we all know if you're doing this by your own, you're going to head for burnout. But when you're working with a group, maybe that's where you both coming out of theater, you're all together. It feels like you're this like fire, like this orchestra, like everything contributes to everyone else's energy. And, we also know the opposite, that burnout room and by yourself and isolation. And, it's not the greatest feeling. So I guess if we're going to, would that be appropriate to call it like peer relationships or developing like working relationships with peers as something like
Yes, for
that?
sure.
Yeah, collaboration is pretty fun. I mean, Ryan was on the set of Incognita not only as the visual effects supervisor, who, we would talk about how is this going to work all the way through the pipeline, because we're on a green screen set right now. Like, what's possible? What framing should we film this with to make sure he's got enough room in post to make it people look better? Like,
Wow.
um, I don't
Can I
know.
take a little blame for one part of that?
Oh yeah, sure.
Because it does relate to kind of how I ended up in visual effects. So like the green screen pickup plan, I early on, I think even in 2017, as Sarah was kind of looking at and very concerned about the shooting schedule, and like, I don't know how these things are going to come together, especially like, a couple shoots in, it was just like, how are we going to get all these people together? Like, we're missing XYZ shots from these shoots, and it's hard to make that all come together, and I'm not sure where our coverage is on XYZ scenes. I was like, okay, so here's a piece of experience that I don't know if I should be recommending, but when I was so when I started college, I was already working on this enormous project that I had set for myself, and I there were so many things that I had not learned about filmmaking, and I shot it all in one month. It was a basically a feature length project, much like Incognita in that it was 4 episodes, but if you put the 4 episodes together, that it would made a feature length film, and it made more sense that way because the first episode was way longer than the other episodes. And I had shot that all in 1 month, and then shortly thereafter started taking my first film class and found out all the things that I had done wrong. and and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? And I was also like exploring After Effects for the first time. And I had taught myself Premiere and Final Cut like leading up to that, but I had never done After Effects before until I was sitting on, once again, the iMacs that were in the MTSU library that had editing software. They had the Adobe Creative Suite on there, and I was teaching myself After Effects, and I was like, oh, maybe there's some things that I could do in here to kind of fix this in post. But then I started realizing how daunting that was, and so I couldn't get everyone back together for an entire additional month of shooting. I was like, I'll just have one day, and I'll bring all these people in, and I'll shoot on a green screen. And I just figured out how to key in backgrounds and stuff like that. And so I'll just grab frames from other things and use those as backgrounds. So that was something that I had done in order to fix my my early student film. And I was just like, hey, well, if you want to just set up pickups, and we didn't have a particular studio. We were thinking maybe we'd shoot some stuff at MTSU. But if you want to just plan to do that, then you can cover a lot of things, and we just need to be grabbing plates and things like that. I had had several years to kind of learn and be more sophisticated in how I approached visual effects, but I did kind of dig that hole for us of saying there might be a way to fix all of this logistical stuff with visual effects. And that was really why I started learning and teaching myself visual effects, is because I never took a visual effects class. But I just really wanted to make the stuff that I was making, and I wanted to make it the best it could be, even though I didn't have a lot of resources. And so I started doing that. And then when I was working any budget, and you don't have these things, but we do have a way to make some of these things possible that might not be easy to shoot or reshoot. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's incredible. Like, you just taught yourself from like the internet and videos and trial and error.
yeah.